Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttamaśloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svāyambhuva Manu Dadati Svapadantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 13, The Appearance of Lord Varāha. Here we are in the discussion where Svāyambhuva Manu and Shatarupa, they approach their father Brahmaji and they are inquiring that what we should be doing. And Brahmaji is very pleased with the service attitude of Svāyambhuva Manu, and he now is instructing Svāyambhuva Manu what is to be done. So we are at 6:10. Etavatyaatmajairbhira karyahi apachatirbhiru shaktya pravatyairgruhetya sadaram gatamatsarai. Translation.
O hero, your example is quite befitting a son in relationship with his father. This sort of adoration for the superior is required. One who is beyond the limit of envy and who is sane accepts the order of his father with great delight and executes it to his full capacity. Purport: when the four previous sons of Brahma, the sages Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara, refused to obey their father, Brahma was mortified and his anger was manifested in the shape of Rudra. That incident was not forgotten by Brahma, and therefore the obedience of Manu Swayambhuva was very encouraging. From the material point of view, the four sages' disobedience to the order of their father was certainly abominable. But because such disobedience was for a higher purpose, they were free from the reaction of disobedience. Those who disobey their fathers on material grounds, however, are surely subjected to disciplinary reaction for such disobedience. Manu's obedience to his father on material grounds was certainly free from envy, and in the material world, it is imperative for ordinary men to follow the example of Manu. Hare Krishna.
Brahmaji began to say, O Veera, O hero, your example is quite befitting a son in relationship with his father. This sort of adoration for the superior is required. So, this is the adoration for the superior. This is possible because you are beyond the limits of envy, that is the second, and you are sanely accepting the instruction with great delight and will perform this instruction with full capacity. Very beautiful instruction, very beautiful happiness being expressed by Brahmaji here when a disciple is accepting instructions of the spiritual master. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that Brahmaji had given the same instructions to his four previous sons, this Chatushkumar, and they flatly refused. And Brahma was mortified, and that he became so angry. That anger manifested in the shape of Rudra. And this incident is not still forgotten by Brahmaji. His feeling, if I instruct Manu, and if he also says, like his own elder brothers, Chatushkumar, then how his activity, how his mission will be accomplished. And what is the mission? To populate the universe with different living entities. But here, because Manu is accepting the instruction with full heart and soul, Lord Brahma is very happy. And Srila Prabhupada says, there is a disobedience from the Chitush Kumar, but the disobedience is for the higher purpose. Just like we have seen the example, Bhishma Pitamha disobeying Parashurama, and only disobedience is allowed. And this is because of the higher purpose, because he had taken a vow. He is like Bhishma. Otherwise, one is subjected to disciplinary reaction for the disobedience. Okay, so this is also one of the aparad, which is called as Guru ki avadya. To disobey the instructions of the spiritual master. So this is Guru ki avadya. So Manu's example is a very praiseworthy example. He's free from envy, because many times somebody may become envious of even one's god brother and even one's guru also. That's why he's getting so much of respect. And somebody may follow instruction but may not follow with full capacity. So here Manu is in great delight and executing the instruction with full capacity, and therefore Guru here Brahmaji is extremely pleased. Text 11. Sattvamasya apatyani sadrushanyotmano gunaihi utpadyashasa dharmena gamyadnei purusham yaja. Translation.
Translation: Since you are my very obedient son, I ask you to beget children qualified like yourself in the womb of your wife. Rule the world in pursuance of the principles of devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus worship the Lord by performances of yajña. Purport: the purpose of the material creation by Brahma is clearly described herein. Every human being should beget nice children in the womb of his wife as a sacrifice for the purpose of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service. In the Vishnu Purana 3.8.9, it is stated, Prabhuji, please.
Varnashramacharvata purushena parapuman Vishnuraradhyate pantha nanyat tattosha karanam.
Thank you. One can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, by proper discharge of the principles of Varna and Ashrama. There is no alternative to pacifying the Lord by execution of the principles of the Varnashram system. Vishnu worship is the ultimate aim of human life. Those who take the license of married life for sense enjoyment must also take the responsibility to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and the first stepping stone is the Varnashra Dharma system. Varnashrama Dharma is the systematic institution for advancing in worship of Vishnu. However, if one directly engages in the process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it may not be necessary to undergo the disciplinary system of Varnashrama Dharma. The other sons of Brahma, the Kumaras, directly engaged in devotional service, and thus they had no need to execute the principles of Varnashra Dharma. Hare Krishna.
Here Brahmaji gives the direct instructions to Manu. Because you are my obedient son, beget children qualified like yourself in the womb of your wife. Rule the world with the principles of devotional service, and thus worship the Lord by performance of yajña. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the purpose of the material creation of Brahma is explained here. And what is the purpose? That every human being should beget nice children, plural here, in the womb of his wife as a sacrifice for the purpose of worshipping the Supreme Personality of God. So, Vishnu Puran, Srila Prabhupada quotes here, Varnashrama acharavat purushena parapuman Vishnu raradhyate pantha na anyat tattosha karanam. That one should live by the principles of Varna and Ashrama. So, what is Varna and Ashrama? Varna is one's occupational duty, and Ashrama is the status, the social status that we are living in. So, Ashrama is Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. These are the Ashrama. And the Varna, the principle of Varna is one's occupational duties. Right. So, by performing the duties of Varna and Ashrama very well, and especially in the Grihastha Ashram entails for the two major responsibilities. One is to beget the children in this context, and another is to do dana, to do charity to the qualified people. So this is the Varnashram institution, which is entail that some siddhir haritoshanam. It is for the full, complete satisfaction of Lord Hari. Srila Prabhupada says, but the sons, the other sons of Brahma, the Chatush Kumar, they were extremely advanced spiritually and they did not find it necessary to go through Varnashram. And they engaged directly in devotional service. But otherwise, people in general should follow the example of Manu and Shatarupa, following the instructions of Brahmaji. So we have discussed this ample times, that importance of having children, right? This is the plural there, and how it is important. And there are many studies done on this, that how the growth of a child, when the child is a single, when the child is single kid, and the growth of a child when with the siblings and with multiple siblings. So there is a different growth trajectory altogether, even from the the relationship, even from the personality development perspective, right? So here Brahmaji is advising, instructing Manu to go ahead with and have many children. So this is text 12. Param sushrushanam mayyam syat praja rakshaya Bhagavan ste praja bhartur rishikesho nutushyati. Translate.
O king, if you can give proper protection to the living beings in the material world, that will be the best service for me. When the Supreme Lord sees you to be a good protector of the conditioned souls, certainly the master of the senses will be very pleased with you. Purport: the whole administrative system is arranged for the purpose of going back home, back to Godhead. Brahma is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Manu is the representative of Brahma. Similarly, all other kings on different planets of the universe are representatives of Manu. The law book of the entire human society is the Manu Sanhita, which directs all activities towards the transcendental service of the Lord. Every king, therefore, must know that his responsibility in administration is not merely to exact taxes from the citizens, but to see personally that the citizens under him are being trained in Vishnu worship. Everyone must be educated in Vishnu worship and engaged in the devotional service of Rishikesha, the owner of the senses. The conditioned souls are meant not to satisfy their material senses, but to satisfy the senses of Rishikesha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the purpose of the complete administrative system. One who knows this secret, as disclosed here in the version of Brahma, is the perfect administrative head. One who does not know this is a show bottle administrator. By by training the citizens in the devotional service of the Lord, the head of the state can be free in his responsibility. Otherwise, he will fail in the onerous duty entrusted to him and thus be publishable by the supreme authority. There is no other alternative in the discharge of administrative duty.
Brahmaji further said, if you can give protection to the living entities, that will be the best service for me. Being a good protector for the conditioned souls certainly will please Rishikesha, the Supreme Lord, who is the master of the senses. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the entire administrative system is arranged so that what is the entire goal of ISKCON, what is the entire goal of the huge administration that we do? The goal is that one should develop love of Krishna. One should create a facility so that there will be a facility, so that people will come together, they will glorify the Lord's name, there will be facility to be engaged in devotional service, and this is how one can be engaged in pleasing the Supreme Lord, who is master of the senses, Rishikesha. Srila Prabhupada says, Manu, the rule of the Manu is followed not only on the planet Earth, but on all other planetary systems. And the law book for this society is Manu Samhita. Manu Samhita was very mistakenly represented in the past. Certain context, certain paragraphs were taken out of context, and Manu Samhita was largely criticized without understanding that entire Chaturvaranyam is based on Guna Karma Vibhagasha, and there is no question of birth there. Now people are realizing that mistake. But here, Prabhupada says here, the duty of the king is not just to exact different types of taxes, but to engage people in their varnashrama dharma. And what is the purpose of varnashram? Varnashrama acharavat purushena parapuman Vishnuraradhyate pumsaha pantaha. So the purpose of varnashram is to be engaged in Vishnu Aradhana. That is devotional service to Lord Rishikesha. Why Rishikesha is being mentioned here? Because that's how the devotional service is defined. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. And this is the purpose of entire administrative duty. By performing huge administration, if one is not able to engage citizens in devotional service to the Supreme Lord, then that is not a perfect administration. There is some flaw. And the head of the state is liable to be punished for this kind of a flaw. And that's why we see that, that there is a gravitation towards at least engagement in different sorts of devotional service or the spiritual activities when there is a right government at the top. Text 13. Yesham natushto bhagavan yajñanjilo yajñandijo janardanaha tesham shramohya parthaya yadatmana svayam. Translation.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana, Lord Krishna, is the form to accept all results of sacrifice. If he is not satisfied, then one's labor for advancement is futile. He is the ultimate self, and therefore, one who does not satisfy him certainly neglects his own interests. Purport. Brahma is deputed as the supreme head of universal affairs, and he is in turn deputes Manu and others as charges.
Your voice is heavily breaking.
It's clear, Prabhu.
Acha, okay, then my connectivity issue. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, Bhajan. Brahma is deputed as the supreme head of universal affairs, and he is in turn deputes Manu and others of charges differies of the material manifestation. But the whole show is for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahma knows how to satisfy the Lord, and similarly, persons engaged in the line of Brahma's plan of activities also also know how to satisfy the Lord. The Lord is satisfied by the process of devotional service, consisting of the ninefold process of hearing, chanting, etc. It is in one's own self-interest to execute prescribed devotional service, and anyone who neglects this process neglects his own self-interest. Everyone wants to satisfy his senses, but above the senses is the mind, and above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the individual self, and above the individual self is the super self. Above even the super self is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu Tattva, the primeval Lord, and the cause of all causes is Shri Krishna. The complete process of perfectional service is to render service for the satisfaction of the transcendental senses of Lord Krishna, who is known as Janardana.
Babaji further instructed, he said, my dear Manu, the Supreme Lord Janardana is the form to accept the results of all the yajñas, all the sacrifice. If he is not satisfied, then all one's labor is considered as futile. Sharamaeva hi kevalam. And therefore, for one's own purpose, for one's own self-interest, one should satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Brahma is deputed as the supreme head, and Brahma in turn deputes Manu. And this is how the parampara system goes, that one guru deputes another disciple as the next guru, so that the interest for the conditioned soul will be continued. And what is that interest? To be engaged in some siddhir haritoshanam. So Lord Brahma, he knows how to satisfy the Supreme Lord. And thus, those who are following in the parampara of the Brahma Sampradaya or other bona fide Sampradayas, they will also know how to satisfy the Supreme Personality of God. Now, somebody may wonder why we should worry about satisfying the Supreme Lord. So, Prabhupada says here, it is in one's self-interest, own self-interest, to execute the process of devotional service. We have seen this example of a fish and ocean, that somebody will say, oh, the fish will say, I don't bother about ocean. The fish not bothering about ocean is harmful to the fish than to the ocean, right? The fish will be gasping for the breath because he's in a, not in a natural, artificial condition. As soon as the fish enters the ocean, he will be take shelter of the ocean. The fish will be in the very natural position of his life. Similarly, the living entity is most natural when the living entity is performed devotional service. And this is called as Swartha. Later in the 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj will define these beautiful words. Nate vidu Swartha gatim hi Vishnum. That people do not know what is their real Swartha is. People consider themselves to be body and consider what is beneficial to the body as their Swartha. Little more they become advanced and they realize, oh, I'm not this body, but beyond this body there is a mind. And people look for some manomaya kosha. So people find first pleasure in annamaya kosha, then people find pleasure in manomaya kosha, then people will find the pleasure on the intellectual level. But beyond the mind, beyond the senses, beyond the intellect is the soul proper, who is the Atman, and the real Swarth is the Sva-artha. Sva-artha is the Swarth of the soul. And the Swarth of the soul is to be engaged in Vishnu worship or worshipping the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, who is also known as Janardana. Text 14. Manuruvacha Adesheham Bhagavato Varteyami Vasudana Sthanam Tvit Vihanu Janihi Prajanam Mamacha Prabho. Translation.
Shri Manu said, O all-powerful Lord, O killer of all sins, I shall abide by your order. Now please let me know my place and that of the living entities born of me. Hare Krishna.
Manu wholeheartedly accepted the instruction of his father and he said, O powerful Lord, again L small, although he is also known as Bhagavato here. O killer of all sins, because by following your instructions, all my sins will be destroyed. That is, when the disciple follows the instructions of the spiritual master. I will abide by your order. Please let me know the place and the living entities born of me. Text 15. Yadokas sarvabhutanam mahimagna mahambasi asya uddharane yatno devadevya vidhiyatam. Translation.
Translation: O Master of the demigods, please attempt to lift the earth, which is merged in the great water, because it is the dwelling place for all the living entities. It can be done by your endeavor and by the mercy of the Lord. Purport: the great water mentioned in this connection is the Garbhodaksha ocean, which fills half of the universe. Hare Krishna.
So Manu is asking for instruction and where to be engaged, because the earth is within the Garbhodak water, Garbhodak ocean, and Srila Prabhupada later in the purport, the next purport, Srila Prabhupada explains this more. Text 16. Maitreya uvacha parameshti tvapam madhye yatha sannami vekshagam kathamenam samunneshya iti dadhyo dhiyachiram. Translation.
Sri Maitreya
Sri
said,
Maitreya said, thus seeing the earth merged in the water, Brahma gave his attention for a long time to how it could be lifted. Purport: according to Jiva Goswami, the topics delineated here are of different millenniums. The present topics are of the Shvetvara millennium, and the topics regarding the Chakshusha millennium will also be discussed in this chapter.
Haribol.
Maitreya said, thus seeing the earth submerged in the water, Brahma gave his attention for a long time to how it could be lifted. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes Jiva Goswami that the topics discussed here are of different millennium, different kalpa it is. The present topics are of the Shveta Varaha Kalpa, and the topics regarding the Chakshusha millennium will be discussed later in this chapter. So there is not only one Varaha Deva incarnation, there are two Varaha Deva incarnations. One is called as Shveta Varaha, another is called as Rakta Varaha. So here the topics are about the Shveta Varaha discussion. Text 17. Srijato me kshitirvabhir plavyamana gata athatra kimanushtheyam asmabhi sargayojitaihi yasyaham hridayadasam sa iksho vidadhatu me. Translation.
Brahma thought, while I have been engaged in the process of creation, the earth has been inundated by a deluge and has gone down into the depths of the ocean. What can we do who are engaged? Who are engaged in this matter of creation? It is better to let the Almighty Lord direct us. Purport: the devotees of the Lord, who are all confidential servitors, are sometimes perplexed in the discharge of their respective duties, but they are never discouraged. They have full faith in the Lord, and He paves the way for the smooth progress of the devotees' duty.
Brahmaji, he was thinking now, oh, I am considering the creation, but in the meantime, earth has been inundated by the water and has gone down the depth of the ocean. What can be done? Let the Supreme Lord direct us. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the devotees of the Lord, they are all confidential servitors of the Lord. And they are perplexed in their discharge of the duties, but they are never discouraged. Right? So there will be difficulties, there will be perplexity, but they will not be discouraged in performing their devotional service. They will have the full faith in the Supreme Lord, and that will pave the way for the devotee's duty. So Prabhupada is also writing concerning his own they will be considering the progress of the devotee's duty. So this is how Srila Prabhupada. So this is the appearance of Shveta Varaha. Later we will see the appearance of Rakta Varaha as well. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. So there is a small change is required for some time. That instead of 7:10, we will begin at 7:15 from tomorrow for some time. Let us see how this goes. Okay, so 7:15 to 7:40, 7:45. Ending time will be almost similar, but instead of 7:10, we'll begin at 7:15. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you,
Prabhupada, thank
Prabhuji.
you,
Hare
Prabhuji. Thank
Krishna.
you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.